Hi, and welcome to this edition of Let's Talk, the show that will introduce you to some of the many interesting people who make up our community here on the East End. Today's guests are Jane Hastay and Peter Martin Weiss. Their faces might not be familiar to you, but their music certainly is. They've been sharing their gifts with the East End for many years now, and you've most likely heard them at a local restaurant, at a benefit fundraiser, at a cocktail party, at a friend's house. They're a very talented pair, and they make beautiful music together. So Jane and Peter, welcome to the show. Let's talk.
Thanks for having us,
You're
Barbara.
welcome. Very excited to have you today. So you're both incredibly gifted musically, and I know as a mom that you recognize that pretty early in a child when they're musical. So tell me, what about your childhood? I mean, did your parents recognize that pretty early?
Well, my older sister played, and she's 6 years older than I am.
And you're a pianist?
Yes. My grandmother played,
Uh-huh.
and I couldn't wait to start lessons. I
Nice.
kept begging, when can I start lessons? And finally, at age 5, I got to start.
That's
Finally at 5.
yeah, that's really early, right? That's early for
How did you
piano.
wait that long?
I was itching to play.
That's great. What about you, Peter?
Well, actually, I didn't start. I guess I played trumpet in 4th and 5th grade. You know, the elementary school said I started handing out instruments. Didn't practice much. Mostly it stayed under the bed. And then the first instrument I got serious with was the guitar. And I played as soon as I got my hands on it, I guess around age 10, 11, 12. I was playing all the time. And then I switched to the string bass, actually electric bass and then string bass when I was in college.
Ah,
I went to music school and I noticed the entire school played guitar better than me. And I switched to bass. I had a bass. I was playing in a band with, and my phone started ringing. All the groups wanted me to join their band. And I said, well, I don't really know how to play it yet. But they said, we don't care. You can learn on the gig. And it's like, I switched to the upright bass. The same thing happened. So I was kind of like, I don't need a brick to fall on my head here. So
well, that was the era when everyone played guitar.
everyone played
Right.
guitar and bassists were needed, and you got a lot of experience. You got a chance to play with veterans early, which is a great
So,
opportunity.
so you both grew up with music in your houses and, in bands or whatever. Where'd you go to school then? You must have both gone to music school, right?
Yep, I got my my college degree from Mills College.
What is that?
Mills College. Mills, it's a women's college in Oakland, California.
Okay.
Great education there. And then I went to Manhattan School of Music for graduate school.
Wow. It's a good school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really good school.
And what about you, Peter?
So my undergraduate was at SUNY Oneonta. In between there, I had 3 semesters at Berklee School of Music in Boston. And then I also got a graduate degree from Manhattan School of Music.
Ah. Did you meet at Manhattan School of Music? No.
No.
You never
No.
crossed paths? Were you there at the same
I
time?
went in 85.
Okay.
It was the first 86, second year of, they had a jazz graduate program. And then we were married in 92, and then she moved to New York and went.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, so that brings us to where did you meet? This is your first, what is this about? Tell me about this picture.
Oh, that is...
That's you, right?
Yeah, that's me with Denise Perrier, vocalist in San Francisco, wonderful singer, Concord recording artist, and Ruth Davies, bassist, and Raul Ramirez, drummer. And we played many gigs together for years while I was in San Francisco. Did a recording that Houston Person produced, and half the recording is this quartet, and half the recording is Denise with Peter and Houston Person's band members.
But you didn't know each other then? Did you?
We were introduced because Denise was good friends with Etta Jones, who Peter played with and toured with for
10 years.
10 years.
Okay, well, that brings me to these. These are from record albums. right?
Mm.
And those are yours, Peter, right?
Well, they're not my records, they're
Well, I
Etta's,
mean,
and
you're on these records.
Yeah, so I
Yes.
was, the band was called Houston Person and Etta Jones, and we toured all over the world, and it was a great experience. It was a family. They were like my mom and my dad.
Hmm.
You know, Etta used to call me up and ask me if I was eating right, you know. And she was the sweetest lady. And she and Denise knew each other, and every time we came to San Francisco, we would go to a barbecue at Denise's. And well, one night, when we were done playing, we went across town to hear Denise play, and Jane was playing piano.
Aha.
And then we sat and talked, and
We all went out afterward to a group diner.
Okay.
till 3 a.m., you know, two bands, and
Yeah.
right. And then we, of course, when you're on tour, I didn't have a car, so Jane had a car. She gave me a ride, and we sat in her car and talked until the sun came up.
Oh, boy.
And then the next night, you came and heard us play,
Yeah.
and I got in your car again.
I said, wow, he's really a good bass player.
And then we talked again till 6 a.m. And I think the next day I left town.
Yeah. Just nice to meet you. Bye.
So you were
We
ships
went to
passing
LA
in the
or we
night.
went north or somewhere, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
you each had your own professional life going.
yeah,
Mhm.
and I was like, I really like that lady in San Francisco. She gave me her card, but because she was single in San Francisco, the card only had her phone number, not her address.
Ah.
And I waited too long. Also, it was awkward. You can tell there.
So how'd you connect? How did you end up connecting?
Well, a friend of mine was going to New York and she was going to visit with Etta. And I said, well, say hi to Peter for me.
Yeah, and then I get this. I was living in Brooklyn, and Ed is in the Bronx, and I get this call, and Ed is talking, and then Sarah was her name, and Sarah says, and I said, "Oh, Sarah, you know that lady Jane in San Francisco? You know, I'd like to write to her, but I don't have her address." And she said, "Well, as a matter of fact, she said to say hello to you."
Ah.
So I got her address. I wrote her a letter. This was before the internet.
Oh,
And
yeah.
before computers.
Kids can't imagine that,
Oh,
right?
my
They can-
typing
no
was,
texting,
my
no-
typing was
No.
terrible, my spelling was terrible, my penmanship was terrible, so I had to write about 20 of them before I got one that didn't look terrible or had a misspelling at the end. I finally had the perfect letter, and I sent it to her, and I tell you, this is absolutely true. I thought, if I get the response that I hope, I'm gonna marry her.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and we didn't really know each other, but we spent 2 whole evenings.
You
just
knew.
talking. I just knew.
You knew this was the one. Did you know that was the one, Jane, or not yet? Okay.
Yeah,
And I got the most
did.
beautiful letter back. It was like gorgeous stationery. It smelled good.
That's another thing that nobody knows today,
Oh my
right?
goodness.
Yeah.
Right, nice
It had like
stationery.
Yeah.
It had like a poem or something that you
Yeah.
wrote.
Well, I knew, but we were on separate coasts. It was a long
Right.
distance relationship. So we were talking on the phone and writing letters. And 6 months later, the band came back. Etta and Houston's band came back.
Oh wait, by then we had exchanged about 4 or 5 letters.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was they were coming, and it was going to be Halloween in San Francisco, which is a national holiday.
Is it?
And I wrote to Peter, and I said, you better have a costume.
Of course I did.
And he didn't have a costume. So when they arrived, we went costume shopping. I
Okay.
had mine. But
What was his costume then?
well,
do you
we went from store to store, and nothing really clicked until he put this big black feather wig on. And it was like perfect. It was so ridiculous. And then he got like a tie-dye t-shirt, and he made this fake flying V red guitar
Out of
that he
cardboard.
made out of cardboard. And so he was like this rock dude.
Yeah.
And I was a Martian.
A Martian.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, you forget that so we came back to town and we spent like every day together. I think by the third day I moved out of the hotel into her apartment. And, you know, we went up hiking Muir Woods. I don't know how well you know San Francisco, but
Not, I've been there for one day, actually, that's
it's
it.
just so beautiful. And then we went up to Marin Headlands, which is the Sausalito side of the Golden Gate Bridge, and it's up these cliffs overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge, the San Francisco Bay, and the San Francisco skyline. So that's where I proposed to her. I figured, well, this is really inspiring, and you know,
So you proposed after how long?
like a half a week after coming back and not knowing her.
Thank
And I
gosh.
said yes right away.
That's amazing. That really is amazing.
Well, and you know, I really was sure, but then, you know, people plant this doubt. Like, people were saying, "What are you doing? You don't even know him." You know, just naysayers.
And look at you now.
And what did you tell them?
Well, I had a dream, and you know, they planted seeds of doubt. I mean, this is a
I thought you
serious.
said he's a bass player.
Well, he was cute and he was a bass player. I mean,
What else
What
could
else-
you
what else
No-brainer.
do you need?
Exactly, what else could you possibly want, right? So so there you are.
yeah.
And how long did it take for that to happen?
Oh,
Once-
Well, we had to plan the wedding, and it was a small wedding in our friend's home
in San
in
Francisco.
San Francisco.
We decided to get married in San Francisco because her family lived in Minneapolis and mine lived in New York, and so in order to keep it small, you know, if we did it in either Minneapolis or New York, we would have to invite like hundreds of people.
right.
So we just had immediate family,
Yeah.
and you know,
and
we
a few
didn't
friends,
expect
yeah.
you know distant cousins to spend a lot of money to fly there. So
Right.
Yeah.
You were hoping, actually.
Some of
You
them
wanted
came.
it to be
we had
small.
to limit it because it was in our friend's
Right.
home.
Yeah.
And Etta sang at our wedding, and Denise sang at our wedding,
Hmm.
and it was just perfect.
Okay, so then what? I mean, now you can't go in different directions, right? You gotta start working together. So what'd you do? You moved?
Well, we had our honeymoon right from there, we went up to Mendocino, we went up the coast, we had a really nice 2-3 week trip, but then I went back to New York and she still had her life in San Francisco and started packing up her apartment. Well, we kept going back and forth. I wanted to move to San Francisco. She wanted to move to New York. I guess she thought I was a big star or something, but I knew the truth. I knew that the jazz world was like, it looks good on records,
Right.
you know, but she said no.
Yeah.
You wanted New York.
Well, I moved to Brooklyn. I moved in with Peter in Brooklyn, and it was great. I mean, we had a beautiful brownstone flat,
Mm.
and just great experience musically. I played with the Kit McClure band.
Heard them.
Great band.
Actually
all
been to one
women.
of their concerts. They're amazing.
They're amazing. Yeah, toured Japan with Kit McClure. We played gigs up and down the coast. I went to graduate school at Manhattan School of
She
Music.
made the most out of New York. I think I was afraid. She had a really great life in San Francisco, and I was afraid she was going to give all this up to come to
Right,
you
to
know
New York.
move in with me. And I guess she might have felt the same. Like, well, he's going to give up his career to move to San Francisco. But see, I knew what my career actually was. It was great. I had a great experience, but I
Well,
was
these are-
ready.
This is some of when you came to New York, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Tell me about.
Yeah. Well, we started working together
Hmm.
at places like we did the Blue Note Brunch,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I think we played Birdland,
The Femios.
Defemios, yeah.
Birdland and Blue Note, those are both big
Yeah.
jazz clubs in New York City.
And that's a jazz cruise that, you know, with Houston and Etta, we used to do them every year. And some of them were tributes. They were all jazz musicians on board and all jazz fans on board. And it's, you know, it's and then you dock at a new port every day, and you know, you go and you rent a moped or you hike or something, and So that was a fake backdrop.
Right.
Yeah.
But you had plenty of work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually,
And
yeah.
was this when you were in New York, this CD?
Yeah.
This was a CD,
Yeah,
right?
we decided to record our first CD together,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a really, it was a labor of love, and we took our time with it. We went into the recording studio
A few times.
a few times over a period of time, and we listened to the tracks before really deciding what we wanted as our finished product, and I'm still very proud of
I
that
think it's the first
recording.
time we produced the CD. Like we
Uh-huh.
had been side people on other people's CDs, many, and where you just show up, you get music, you accompany and whatever. But this is really you choose the music, you write out the charts for other musicians, you know you budget it.
So that's really your work. That's
Yeah,
all
and then
your
you
work.
choose we did the artwork and we did the liner notes. We hired someone to write liner notes and.
Are these still available if you go on Amazon, or can
I
you
don't
still
know
buy
about
these?
that one. We have them.
We have.
You know, there's a running joke we say. It'll either be a million seller or there'll be a million in the cellar. We have a million in the cellar, so if you want one, we get it.
Well, I'm just wondering if anybody out there wants one, you know? I
Oh,
mean,
just
what's your
contact us.
Tickle Slap Music, right? Tickle Slap Music is your website.
Yeah, I tickle the ivories, he slaps the bass.
Okay, so what else have you been doing? How'd you come out here? Tell me how you got to East Hampton. I mean, that's always an interesting story.
Well, we had vacationed on Shelter Island at
Peconic Lodge.
the Peconic Lodge, which is now the
It's the Yitzhak
Perlman's
Perlman's music school.
Oh, okay.
Perlman's music school, but at the time it was this really inviting little resort, and we came out several summers and we brought our bikes and we'd ride all over
Yeah.
and just
Scheme. How can
like
we
how
move out
could
here?
two jazz musicians manage to make a life out here? And then I don't know, I was just getting, I grew up with a lot of summers spent in rural Wisconsin where my grandparents had a farm, and you know the city after a while I just really needed more nature, so I would wake up in the morning and say I need more nature, you know. So
You wanted to hear the birds.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So we took a leap, you know, we just took a leap. He had cousins who had
Oh, yeah.
a house that we were able to rent initially.
Well, you were born on Long Island, right?
I was born in Huntington.
Huntington, okay. So you knew the
But,
island.
no, yeah, but I never made it out to
Never
the
been out
Hamptons.
east.
We used to go to Fire Island, I guess, as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, body surfing the waves. But I never made it. I never didn't really know a lot about the Hamptons.
Okay, so you came to Shelter Island first? Is that?
No,
No.
but what we thought about, you know, we would wanted to move to a place that had a year-round economy. Because if you're gonna come and make a living, we weren't going to be keep two lives. Like some
Right.
people keep one foot in New York, and we had a great apartment, but we didn't own it. We rented it,
Yeah.
and we wanted to buy a house. So we bought a house. We stayed at my cousin's, and we started looking around at real estate, and we put an offer down on the very first house we saw because it was like compared to the apartment, it's like wow, this is so much room, you know. And it wasn't. I didn't put a high enough bid. The guy rejected it, but it was like the second or third house.
And we really lucked out. We love our house.
In fact, we went to
And
look
that's
at
the
it.
one you bought?
Yeah, we
Wow.
went to look at it on our bikes, and there was a lot of town land around the apron of the house. And I guess at certain times of day, the birds just flocked there. And we rode our bikes and we went into the backyard. There was no one there. The owner was like it was a seasonal place for him. So, and we just heard all these birds. And we said, well, this is the place.
And this is in Springs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you really are out in the woods, sort of.
Yeah, we have lots of woods behind us, and I took a long walk this morning, and you know, the leaves and this time of year is just glorious.
Yeah.
We really made a good move, and we both say that. I think we both agree that
This
we
is
Oh,
my
yeah.
favorite time of year out
It's
here.
now we've been here
Yeah.
23 years now.
Yeah.
23 years.
Mhm.
Wow. So
Yeah.
tell me about what you do. What do you do out here? I have this picture.
Yeah, well, initially we had one of our long-standing gigs was at the Maidstone Arms on Friday nights, it was a really great little gig for us as a duo. It was one of our first gigs. Lasted quite a while.
Mhm.
And we've played at the Ram's Head Inn, Maid's
We're at
Home
Pierre's
Club,
every Tuesday.
Pierre's, right?
every Tuesday.
In Maine or what?
Main
Main
Prospect,
Prospect,
Saturdays
right?
in Southampton.
Saturdays.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, you
And
know,
you're the music director at a
Yeah, tell me what else you do.
yeah, well, I'm happy to be the music director at First Presbyterian Church, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing that for, I've lost count, but I think it's 6 or 7 years now. And, direct the handbell choir and the choir and play in the services, organ and piano.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you?
I play at the Jewish Center.
Mm-hmm.
I play guitar for Cantor Stein on Friday nights, and Jane joins me on Saturday mornings.
Friday night is Shabbat, right?
Yeah, Shabbat. Friday night Shabbat and Saturday morning Shabbat is piano and string bass. And then we do the high holy days for them and
Mhm.
extra services, and it's great.
That's one of my
And
favorite spots is
Yeah.
that sanctuary. Do they call it a sanctuary?
Right.
I just love going into that
Isn't it
space because
beautiful?
it's so worshipful. I just
Yes.
love it. That's Jaffe building, right? Norman Jaffe.
And I'm Jewish, grew up, raised conservative Jewish, and as a professional musician, I was always busy on weekends, so I became very lapsed and never went for years. My dad used to call me up and ask me if I was still Jewish. I said, Dad, I don't think they can throw you out. You're not
I
coming."
don't think that can change,
Yeah.
right?
So, but now, all my elders are gone, and I feel wonderful there. I feel like I have a home. Just feels like it's a very deep taproot for
Mhm.
me.
Yeah, that's a beautiful space to be in, so that's a great place to be. I also have some posters here. What can you tell me about these?
Well, we formed a concert series called Art of Song because we wanted to present jazz in optimal conditions with,
Mhm.
a good piano, a listening environment, where vocalists and instrumentalists would be our guests and they could really be heard and appreciated. And so we started out, we did a couple concerts at the Unitarian Universalist Meeting House and then moved over to the Archive Building in Bridgehampton.
Right, I've been there, right,
Yeah,
for those
but-
concerts.
Mm-hmm. And
We've done a few at First Presbyterian more
Mhm.
recently.
yeah, we invite local and guest musicians from our local music community and also from New York and Washington D.C. And we try to do thematic concerts. So we did things like jazz goes to the movies, a tribute to Ella Fitzgerald,
Mhm.
Under Paris Skies, and it's super fun to put them together.
Oh, they're great.
It's really fun.
They are great. There's nothing really like that out here. I mean, that's really great.
Yeah.
So what have you not done that you still want to do? What's left on your list? Anything? You want to do another CD or?
Well, I really love to compose.
Oh.
I really do. I have done at different times, done a lot of composition, and I'd like to get more of my originals recorded. I did some of that during COVID. It was a good time.
Right, right.
And I got reacquainted with my recording skills that I learned in college and graduate school. And I did some remote recording with a vocalist who has been one of our Art of Song guests, Joanna Foyer. And we did it all remotely, where I would send her an accompaniment and she would send me back her vocal track and then I'd mix it.
Nice.
So that's one thing.
Anything else?
Just to continue to grow as a musician. It was interesting moving out here, moving away from career in New York, having a career in New York. But as a bassist, you know, you're kind of a gun for hire, and
Right.
you get called, and you're always playing someone else's music, someone else's arrangements, and it's a great experience, especially for a young musician. What I love about playing together with Jane is it's an equal musical partnership, and I feel like I'm getting to grow as a bassist, as a musician, that I would have had that opportunity in
You
New
probably have
York.
more freedom to,
Much more freedom. I can, you know, it's like two equal voices. And every time we put either, sometimes we work on an arrangement, sometimes we do it on the spot, but it's real empathetic and democratic. And so, you know, I just enjoy that so much.
sounds like the perfect
It's
marriage.
perfect.
Well, at the end of my interviews, I like to do a little tribute to, I don't know if you ever watched Inside the Actor's Studio with James Lipton, the interviewer. And at the end of his interviews, he had a series of questions he asked every person that he interviewed. I'm just going to ask you one, but it was my favorite one. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you get to the pearly gates?
You mean if we get to the pearly
I'm assuming.
Well, I'd just like to be seen as a person who shared her gifts with others. And, you know,
And you do.
yeah.
Thank you.
I'm lucky.
I appreciate that. We all appreciate that. And what about you, Peter?
I think I'd like not to say you're in.
Come on in.
But you're in because you were kind, caring.
Great.
You know,
That's great.
that's really what matters.
That is exactly what matters.
Right.
Yeah. I think you're both safe. I think there'll be someone there to meet you.
Oh, good. That's reassuring.
Well, I want to thank my guests, Jane Hastay and Peter Martin Weiss, for sharing their stories with us here on the show today. I also want to thank my sponsor, Marshall and Sterling Insurance of East Hampton, and the staff here at LTV who work so hard to make sure that public access television is available to us here on the East End. Please join me again soon for another edition of Let's Talk.